How did war criminal Japan rise from the ashes to become a global technological powerhouse? Behind it all was America's Cold War strategy and a remarkable technological resurgence, the Phoenix effect, and we're about to begin that fascinating story. December 7, 1941. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. At the time, Japan was running out of oil, and the United States had declared that it would not export oil to Japan. In response, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. It was a serious error in judgment. The Japanese missed the most important thing not to do in war. Don't expand your front. Creating enemies on both sides is a surefire way to lose a war, especially if you're on both sides. Nazi Germany made the same mistake, invading the Soviet Union without having yet captured Britain in the West. As a result, Japan and Germany became defeated, while the United States and the Soviet Union became the biggest beneficiaries of World War II. The United States, which until then had been a bystander and was making a killing selling munitions, finally rescinds its declaration of neutrality. The funny thing is that the Japanese thought they were more powerful than the US, and that if they bombed Pearl Harbor, the US would hand over the oil. This is what happens when you get too samurai-esque, as the Japanese Empire also practiced kamikaze tactics. The result, as we all know, was a nuclear double whammy, and Japan went to the goal. The little guy and the fat guy got Japan to surrender. On 2nd September 1945, Japan officially admitted defeat in World War II by signing the surrender document on the US battleship USS Missouri, anchored in Tokyo Bay. Japan was then occupied by the US-led Allied forces until 1952. The main goals of this period were the demilitarization and democratization of Japan. Japan's cities were filled with the rubble of war. The people had to rebuild their daily lives amidst the ruins. They were facing a new beginning. On 3rd May 1947, Japan implemented a new constitution, which emphasized pacifist principles, renounced the armed forces, and guaranteed democracy and human rights. The Cold War, which began in 1947, brought about a major change in US policy towards East Asia. The need to use Japan as an economic and military focal point to prevent the spread of communism in the region. With the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950, Japan was utilized as a major logistical base for the United Nations forces. This contributed greatly to the rapid recovery and growth of the Japanese economy. Japan benefited economically from supplying the US and UN forces with military supplies, which allowed them to rebuild their industrial base. During the Korean War, Japan supplied $240 million worth of military supplies. It's about $2.5 billion in today's value, which helped boost economic growth. The Phoenix effect is a term used to describe the phenomenon where a country that loses a war rebuilds from economic devastation and turmoil to emerge as a powerhouse. Germany and Japan after World War II are cited as prime examples. Japan made many technological advances in aircraft manufacturing during the war, and after the war applied these technologies to automobile manufacturing. Japanese automakers began to apply aircraft manufacturing techniques to produce vehicles with modular, one-piece construction, which greatly improved the efficiency of vehicle assembly and production. Toyota maximized productivity by introducing the Toyota Production System. TPS combined modularized production with a just-in-time approach to minimize inventory and increase production efficiency. Japan converted many of the technologies accumulated during the war into peacetime civilian industries. Let's take a look at some of the key examples. Japan developed radar and radio technology during the war, which had a major impact on the post-war consumer electronics industry. Sony developed innovative products, such as the transistor radio based on these technologies, and achieved great success in the global market. Japan developed high-performance textile technology during the war to make military uniforms and parachutes. After the war, this technology was utilized to produce high-quality textile products, which contributed to the growth of Japan's textile industry. Japan's chemical industry was developed during the war to produce explosives and chemical weapons, and in the post-war period, it utilized this technology to develop a wide range of chemical products. With the emergence of new materials, such as plastics and synthetic fibers, the Japanese chemical industry has grown significantly. If the US had not deregulated Japan and provided economic support, Japan would have been forced to have an industrial structure centered on light industry and agriculture. Japan has a geographical environment that is not favorable to agriculture, such as Indonesia or Vietnam. In the end, World War II left the United States and the Soviet Union as the victors of the war, signaling the beginning of the Cold War era. Japan also fought and lost World War II, and as a result was penalized for not being able to develop heavy industry. However, due to the nature of the Cold War, the United States, Japan's enemy, decided to help Japan, as it seemed that if Japan was weak, it was only a matter of time before Japan and South Korea would be communized by the Soviet Union and China. In fact, the United States was right. The Korean War began shortly afterwards, and Japan served as a logistical support. Afterwards, Japan's industry developed at a tremendous pace based on war technology, and at one point it became the second largest economy in the world. Even in the aftermath of war, a country that made real weapons can rise from the ashes, and we call it the Phoenix effect.